Computer. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on episode 5 of Think Lab. We have our first guest today. So
Yeah.
thank you. This is Natalie
Yeah.
Rupp. I almost went the other way, but Natalie and I, gosh, now I was trying to think. I think you and I go back four.
About 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years. She was a coach of mine when I was with a different program. Absolutely loved her. Um, she really helped my business. She really helped define, I think, where I was headed. And I was sad to see her leave, but then she popped up and started her own business, Intentional Growth Coaching. So, Natalie, welcome.
Thank
Why don't you
you.
give
Thanks for
us
having me.
30-second sky view elevator pitch of who you are, where you come from, the great state of
Yeah.
Tennessee, and start there.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm in Tennessee, a little city called Franklin, right outside of Nashville. It's so quaint and lovely. But I've been working with real estate agents for, like you said, around 4 years, and I love real estate agents. And so I've really been able to hone in on how to help agents grow their business in the lead source space. So that's really my wheelhouse, is helping agents grow their business with new opportunities and really just how to crush it. And so that's really where I've taken my business. Intentional growth is named that. The art of the name is for a purpose. I really think that growth is, you need to intentionally know where you're headed in order to grow. And so having a coach and having you have accountability in your business just helps your business thrive. So I absolutely love what I do. So thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you started your business when? September?
June.
June. Okay.
Mhm.
And what made you decide to go from what you were doing to starting your own?
Absolutely. So I was in a previous company coaching real estate agents, and it was more of a facilitator type of role of gathering. I mean, I coached 500 agents across the country, and that's really where my knowledge base started. And I gathered just little glimpses of what these powerhouses across the country are doing and how they're winning. And I gathered enough information where I was like, I want to do this one-on-one with people, not just at a big level. And so I got promoted in that company to develop a whole new different coaching division. And it was just me building out this team, future team. And I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, I could really do this myself. It was almost like proof that I could go and build something. And so I left and I found my niche of just one-on-one coaching with brokers, teams, or even just new agents. That's really where I thrive. I love one-on-one coaching.
That's great. All right, so I'm going to open it up to Dominic, Michael. I have a list of questions. I know you guys do too. We were very excited, like I said, to have you as our first guest. So,
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Yeah, Natalie, I'm curious. You're with your kind of current, realtors that you're working with. Do you get a lot of? I'm sure a lot of your business is new agents, but what portion of your business would you say is agents that have been in the business for a handful, maybe 5 to 10 years, something like that,
Yeah,
that are still
I
looking
would
for that?
say, I would actually say a good 40% of my business is still seasoned agents. And I also coach brokers and teams on leadership and growing their business. So yeah, I would say around that 40%. But what I've actually seen recently is a little bit of an uptick on new agents that are young,
Mm,
that are wanting coaching, and they're hungry and they're actually closing more business than some of my seasoned agents, which is a recent trend that I'm starting to see, just because they're so comfortable with putting themselves out there, social media, putting their face online. So that's been a really fun new aspect to my business, is coaching younger agents.
and how much do you see people that are coming from other industries, previous careers, or is it starting fresh in real estate? They just knew that's what they wanted to do.
Mostly real estate.
Yeah,
They've always wanted that, they've wanted to do it. They have parents in it, family members. I think out of all my clients, I really only have one who was a forester, and that was his background before then using that to boost his real estate side of his business.
gotcha, gotcha.
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually an interesting question that I've never thought of. What made you ask that question? I'm curious.
Well, I guess maybe personal experience. I came from a sales and a kind of account management background before I got into real estate, and so a little bit of transfer of skill set. But there's a lot of new things that I'm learning, as an agent now, even a couple of years in. So just kind of from a personal experience standpoint, if folks are taking a similar path, or if you're working with a lot of people that just kind of like they knew out of the gate, I want to be in real estate, and but yeah, just kind of a personal curiosity.
Yeah, and people that choose real estate, I mean, sometimes they got to know what they're getting themselves into because it is a tough business to be a part of. It is not for the faint of heart. Some agents think, oh man, if I get in real estate, it'll be a quick win. I'll get money really quick. It's a fast way. I'm like, no, actually, false.
Right?
That is not
Yeah.
the case. So props to you for just diving right on in.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Hmm.
I'd like to say something about that last comment about agents just thinking they can dive right on in and just make a ton of money. I too transitioned into real estate after a very long career, over 25 years in the medical device in surgery sales. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to come over to real estate. I'm going to kick its rear. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to have
Yeah.
my own show on Bravo. It's going to be selling Minneapolis. And I got absolutely humiliated because I was trying to be a corporate salesperson. Um, and so I had to completely retool myself. I mean, I still had the same skills in terms of rapport building and disseminating information, and most importantly, asking questions,
Mm.
but I had to completely relearn. Um, so this is the hardest thing I've ever done, ever. And I was in neurosurgery for 10 years and cardiac surgery for almost 10 years. And people don't believe me when I say that, but I'm not joking. This is literally the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, what is it that you would say is the hardest part about it?
Just always, always, always having to be building for the future. You never can take your foot off the gas. You just can't. You can't convert a hospital like Mayo Clinic and say, "Oh my gosh, for the next 3 years, I'm going to have this amazing situation," because that's just not how it works in real estate. But the other thing I want to comment on is it didn't get lost on me. I caught it hard. Was about 40% of your business coaching are actually seasoned agents, but you're getting a lot of newer agents. And
Right.
the thing that really struck me about the newer agents is that some of these, or if not a lot of these agents, are literally doing better in terms of closing transactions than the seasoned agents. And it's because they're not afraid to put themselves out there. And
Right.
social media is huge. And um, I literally was a little bit late for this because I was just on a call with my brokerage, and it was talking about how to we should be integrating AI into our business.
Mm.
But there's so many realtors, in my opinion, that think that social media is not important. But I think what's going to happen is if those realtors really choose to say, "Oh, not going to do any of it, not going to be on video, not going to be on here," I literally think they're going to see themselves get passed up by the younger generation because they are smart and savvy and they're not afraid to be out there. It's the way of it.
Well, yeah, it's the book Who Moved My Cheese, right? The world of real estate is video, social media, putting yourself out there. And that book, it's a bittersweet book because you realize if you aren't changing and adapting to culture, you are going to lose.
That's a
And that
great
is
book.
Yes, and that is exactly what is happening in the real estate like culture right now. And if you go to any conference of real estate, they're going to be talking about video right now. And guess what? The seasoned agents are the ones that say, it's not for me. I'll just continue to run my business for my sphere base because it takes up 95% of my business is my sphere. But imagine the amount of people that is your sphere that is on social media, where if you see a younger agent who's not afraid to use video for the listings, video tours, like if you want to market your home at the end of the day, you're going to want the agent that uses video.
Hmm.
My mother was in her 80s when we purchased her an iPad. And it was kind of the best thing we ever did, but kind of the worst thing we ever did. But nonetheless, she called it her machine, and she was on that thing constantly watching videos. She knew about Instagram. She knew how to FaceTime people. She would FaceTime the kids at school. They're like, Grandma, I can't talk to you. I'm at school. But the older generation is looking and they're watching. And I'm really
Yeah.
glad to hear you say that because that validated what I, strongly suggested to people my age is like, gosh, we got to get on this social media thing. And they're like, no, 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 I don't want to do it. But
Well,
So
here's the thing. Oh, sorry, Dave, were you going to say
no,
something?
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just think the older generation, talking about your grandma that's 80 years old, my grandpa's the same, constantly watching videos. It's the crave for connection. The face to face is what brings the transfer of trust. And
Mhm.
nowadays, I mean, there's texting, there's phone calls, but it's not as personal when you actually see somebody face to face, belly to belly. Like that's really where and why I think our generation's just craving more connection, because we're lacking in that department.
So when I started, I was just constantly drilled in the forehead, lead generation, lead generation, lead generation. Where do you see 2025 lead generation? When you hear that term, what is not understood, what is overused? Like, how do you
Hmm.
define lead generation to a new agent?
Oh, wow. That's a great question.
This is why you weren't prepared because we didn't
I
send you the
know.
questions ahead of time. Put you on the spot.
You're like, we want raw Natalie
So are
answers
you
today.
standing, Natalie?
I am, of course I'm
You
standing. I stand
always
all
stand, but
the
I always think that I've always thought over the years that you've been on one of those
time.
like what's it called? The ball thing.
Yes, the ball.
Because the way you
No,
move, I'm like, I think you're standing again. All right, keep going. Sorry to
I
interrupt.
no, I stand almost every meeting. It brings me energy. Okay, so that question is complex to unpack because I think lead generation is going to look different for every agent, but there's only one common theme I think through because a newer agent, you're going to have to get cold business. The reality of that is you're going to have to grind. All of you did that, I'm sure, at the very beginning, or you were passed off leads. But the one thing stands true is your sphere. No matter who you are, you have a network of people that know, like, and trust you. And it's really just how do I continue to hone in on those people and make sure that they know what I do, how I'm different, and how do I make sure that they can trust me with their biggest asset. So I would say 2025 for lead gen is really how do you cultivate a network so strong that whenever they think of real estate, they think of you. That's what I think lead generation is going to be.
can I
Yeah.
make one comment on that?
Go for it.
Um, and I think that circles right back in to video. Because if you're making educational, entertaining, informative, sometimes quirky, fun videos that show your personality, it lives 24/7 online. It never goes away. And I have an N of one. That's my nerdy medical data coming out on me. But I have an N of one on this. But I had a really neat property listed down on the Mississippi River in a small town. And I am as best as I possibly can doing video all the time. And I got a sign call. And when I drove down there for this property, and it was a historic property built in 1907, big old tank of a house. Um, I got out of the car and the people were like, "Oh my gosh, you were in the video." And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, like who did you think it was going to be? It's me, it's and they felt like they had met me before and that they
Right.
sort of kind of knew me, but it was kind of like all that ice melted from a cold interaction from a sign call because they recognize me. That's an N of one, but I'm like, I want more of that.
Right. Let me blow your mind really quick. So I did a lot of research around video and stats just because I'm like, okay, you're going to hear about video being important in real estate all the time, but really we forget about the why. And that brings it into the stat conversation. And 400% more inquiries will come through if your listing has a video.
Wow.
400. And
That's
then 73% of home buyers expect it. 73%. Imagine the
Mm.
amount of business you're losing if you're not doing video. Here's another, I have two more stats for you, just because I think they're so incredibly powerful, is that real estate agents who use video grow their revenue 49% faster. And here's the sobering number. Only 9% of real estate agents are using video. Only
Wow.
9%. And so when I talk to my clients, I am such a competitive individual where I'm like, how do I outshine everybody? Right? I'm sure you guys are that way too. You're your own business owners. I'm like, if only 9% is using it, just shooting a video that you might think is terrible is already winning. You're
right.
already ahead, right? It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yes, I was going to ask about. So there's a lot of high production, kind of expensive listing videos you might do. But what would you place in the value of just like with your own phone, just out at a listing, taking some 10 to 30-second video? Does that
I
whatever you
love
can
it.
do, you love it? Yeah.
Yes. Do you know why? It's because it's personal. I
Hmm.
think there's something, I mean, you mentioned AI earlier, Mike, which I have my own opinions about. But Dominic, that personalization and when it's not so formal just makes it feel raw and genuine. And again, at the end of the day, you want somebody who's genuine and not so polished. I think a polished video is great if you're doing like a drone video and a house tour. Man, I think
Hmm.
that's phenomenal. But if you don't have the tools to do that, I think just you explaining, here's the house, this is a really cool feature that I like, is just as powerful as a really well built out, expensive product.
I
Cool.
think
Well,
so.
that's great.
And this is our best tool, our phone. And years ago, I took a CE class and it was called Millennial Speak. And it was this really cool powerhouse of a young professional woman that was giving this presentation around the country. And what Natalie was just talking about is exactly what I remember her saying. It's like slick, produced, perfection. They don't want it because the
Mhm.
generation that are in that home buying process right now have grown up with these things. They've had these their whole lives. And there is, if they sneeze, if they cough, if they do whatever, it's like they don't care. They just like the raw interaction. But the biggest thing was like if mom says, "Hey Billy, I know you want to buy a house. My friend Mike is a really great realtor. Billy's going to Google me, and if I have zero online presence, it doesn't matter what his mom says. He's not working with me."
That's right. Word of mouth can only go as far as it can, right? People are going to go research, not on Google first. I can strongly argue people are going to be going
YouTube.
to your Instagram,
Mm.
YouTube, and Facebook to research who is this real estate agent.
So, Natalie, walk us through. I think there's a lot of people that have this perception of coaching, like it's this thing on a shelf, and they don't know how it goes. They don't know, what the process is. So, if somebody's interested in coaching
Hmm.
and they call you and they say, I'm interested in coaching, walk me through like that initial contact, whether it's email, text, phone, to them committing to you or to a coach, and then like what you think the first 6 months would look like. Like
Oh, I love that
what
question.
is the agent doing and what's being expected of them from a coach or you as their coach?
I love that so much. That's a great question. So I'm gonna have, yeah, yeah, cheers to you. So I would say I always try to hop on the phone first. I text them, we find time to meet, and then we get on the phone. And that conversation lasts maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And really my whole focus and goal of that is, okay, you raised your hand for coaching, but why? Like, what actually do you expect? Like, it's that expectation conversation that you guys have in your appointments too, of just setting the ground rules. What are you expecting? Let's make sure we're on the same page. Because there are some people that I'm like, oh, then I'm not the right coach for you. Like, it has to be a fit for both sides. More often than not, it's a great fit, and I'll schedule time on their calendar to start our first meeting. From there, our first meeting looks like this. It's a goal setting meeting. What are you actually hoping to accomplish this year? Have you thought about that? Let's look at your previous projections from last year and try to figure out your strong months and the ones where we need to build up your pipeline. The second meeting is an assessment that I made, which is 4 pillars of my business and the subcategories of what I know will work and win in real estate. And then the agent themselves says, okay, from 1 to 7, where would I rank myself? It's just like any workout that you do with a benchmark workout. And then 6 months from now, you're like, wow, I'm flying through this. Similarly, it's okay, 6 months from now, we're going to look back and be like, look at the amount of growth that you've had in only 6 months of coaching. It also gives me a really good understanding of where their business is and where do we need to focus on first. And so depending on the agent, it really just depends on which track we start going down. I am a coach. I like this about myself. I'm not a coach that's going to be cracking the whip and driving home heavy, heavy accountability. I'm not that stereotypical coach that you might think of. I do bring in accountability, but it's with gentle nudges and making sure that the agent is coming up with the idea themselves. I just direct them there. And so people really like my style of coaching because it's more approachable, it's more open, it's more of like a whiteboarding session where you and I get to really dream together of how we can make this work. And we're just on the same side of the table. We're a team doing it together instead of it being like, hey, Dominic, you need to make 100 calls this week, go. Because a lot of coaches are going to say that.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
reality. And I'm not like that. I'm like, you know what? That's important, but let's not do that. Like we need to make calls, but it is a very small step forward. It is not just go. Did that answer your
Where
question, Dave?
Hmm.
where would you say you're finding you're intersecting with most agents? Is it like at a time of desperation where they're like, I got to make this work or else it's back to the 9 to 5? Or is it someone that's already kind of started on their path, but they're really looking to build and create something that's going to be long lasting? Or I'm sure it varies, but I'm just kind of curious, like, where do you find yourself meeting people the most, like where they're at in their journey?
They're desperate. They need
Yeah.
somebody. Yeah.
Really? Desperate is
Yeah.
what drives people to coaching more often than anything.
They realize I need this.
It's what drove me to my first coach because I was just like, oh my gosh. And I remember I gave a referral to a realtor in my office who specializes in duplexes. And I got the referral check and I looked at this and I'm like, I'm going to buy myself a coach with this money. So I did. I
That's
signed up
right.
for a year.
And the ROI you get from a coach is unbelievable. And I mean, you just say something out loud, 95% of people are actually going to do it. So it's really just ensuring that you're going to hit your goals. But and that's such an interesting question, Dominic, because it really is true, is the people that are just they're in a rut. Or I hear some of my clients are like, I just feel so stagnant.
Hmm.
Like nothing's really happening and I'm not content with this. I don't really know where to go. I need some fresh ideas. And that's where they call me. Or I have a broker who um, got his agent for me because his agent wasn't producing the amount of numbers that he would have expected last year. Or I have a broker who hired me for her business partner who wasn't doing as much as she should. That's an uncomfortable one.
Got it. Yeah.
And so it really just the the consistency and the theme is that desperation piece. And that's where I love meeting people though too, because there's so much hope. When they meet with me, it's like, oh, we can dream again. You are not alone. I'm gonna come alongside of you and we're gonna do it together. Because real estate is such a lonely business. Because like you said, Mike, it is a hard job. And you do not want to do it alone. You want some
No.
fresh ideas. Um, and some encouragement. I had somebody say, can I just hire you for your encouragement? I'm like, yeah, you can, because I'd
That's
love
right.
to do that for you.
Yeah, and they need to switch brokerages too so they can find some people that they can actually interact with. Um,
Right.
yeah, I
That's
like the
funny.
fact that you use the word hope because, a lot of times you'll read in the business books, hope is not a strategy and it's like a bad word, but it's really not a bad word. Hope is a really good word. And if we lose hope in things, you can
Mm.
really, like, your light can just go out. Um,
Well, I
so I
disagree.
mean, you
I
can't,
totally disagree with that.
well, you can't,
Oh, I love
well,
it.
you can't. That's okay. Dave and I do this all the time. It's like you can't hope that you're going to get a listing. I mean, you need to do activities to do that.
Exactly.
And at the same time, you still can't lose hope in the future. So, how do you feel about big, audacious things, writing down dream board, like stream of consciousness writing that you don't even have to? I don't know. I think you know what I'm trying to say about like the kind of life you want to have. And we've done those exercises at the big red class, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, I love those. I don't see any problem with it. It's just, are they smart?
Right.
Like, can you actually achieve this? Or are you going to feel like a failure at the end of the year?
Are you
Like,
talking
I
about
love,
a smart goal?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because
Define that again.
yeah, SMART goals. So they are, gosh, they're specific,
Yep.
they're measurable, they're attainable, they're, I think, reasonable. Is that right? And timely?
I
Are,
don't
is
know.
Is
are
the T?
reasonable?
Oh, see, I thought the
Timely.
T was trackable.
I think it's timely.
I think
Like
time
you can
T
do
for
it in a
time.
timely
Yeah.
manner.
I think it was a deadline, time deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta be time specific. Yeah.
So all of that to say, if you are, I just did this with a client like a couple weeks ago, where he had his best year in real estate, 40, I think it was 40 to 50 transactions a year, and he only did 16 last year. And we're like, ooh, we gotta turn this ship around. And
Hmm.
he realized, it's like, I'm gonna go shoot for 40 to 50. I go, nope, 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 nope. I don't think we can go there yet. I think we can have a stretch goal of that, but realistically, let's just look at the past 4 years and realize your strongest months. And we got him to about 36. I'm like, that's over double what you did last year. So I think just I love the whiteboarding, the let's go big, but you have to either have somebody to come alongside of you and you have to make sure that they're really smart.
How
Absolutely.
much are you looking at someone like an agent? Like if you're coming up with a plan for them to be successful next year or whatever time period, are you advising on things like, if they're doing a mailer, like the look and feel of the mailer, or is that kind of outside your area of expertise and you're more focusing on the fact that they should be doing a mailer?
No, I go into depth on what that should sound
Hmm.
like. Because I don't want to tell an agent, just go do a mailer and that'll help you win when the open rate for email is only 10%. So I'm like,
Hmm.
screw email. Email's not going to get you much. So it's more of like okay, if 45% response rate is happening on texting, I want to know, what are you texting? What are you sounding like? How are you making it personal? Because that's really what people care about. And just little language and wording changes can make a massive difference. Like for example, one of my agents was sending out a text that was like, okay, this is the first initial email or text, excuse me, was, hey, I'm Deborah from blank, and I see that you're looking to buy a house in a blank. So excited for you. Looking forward to connecting and hearing from you soon. Let me know if you have questions. I was like, that is terrible. I would not respond to you. Would you respond to you? So you have to really get into the nitty gritty of it all. It's like, okay, one, let's go on a fast. Do not ask anybody or say, looking forward to hearing from you, being the last thing you say. That is a no for me. I'm like, you can say, looking forward to hearing from you, but you need to end with a question every time so that you are getting them to re-engage with you instead of it just ending with an exclamation mark or a period. When you prompt somebody, they're more apt to respond. So yeah, Dominic, I would say I want to get into the nitty-gritty of what you're actually saying. Are you sending a business card with your face on it? What does your texting sound like when you do a video
Mm.
message? And then I've done branding conversations where I look at their Facebook and their website and their bios, and I'm like, oh my goodness, we need to, rewrite some
Yeah.
things.
No, I love that. Yeah, I like that you do that because I feel like sometimes I to Mike's point earlier, it can be very isolating sometimes as a realtor. Where you think like you're
Yes.
you're in your own world, and you're like, this is great, and then someone else looks at it and goes, you want to change that a little bit, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
When
it
you,
sounds like, oh, I'm sorry, David.
well, I was going to say, when you get a call, Natalie, what to you defines, like if you get a call from somebody, you're done with the call and you're like, that person, I see a path. Like define that person, but at the same time, you must get calls where you're like, this is going to go nowhere.
Hmm.
What defines that agent? Like, where do you see growth opportunities when you first have that introduction with an agent, and where do you see stumbles? And I mean, we've talked about this
Yes.
in previous podcasts. 72% of agents do less than one, two deals a year. There's this huge dropout. You
Hmm.
must see the other side of it where you're like, this is going to go nowhere.
Hmm.
Is there a theme in any of those?
Yeah. Excuses.
Mm.
The amount of times I've had a phone call and I'm like, hey, well, what have you tried? I go through the pain funnel. It's a sales tactic. I'm sure, Michael, you know about this being in sales, but it's like you start really broad. Oh, tell me more about that. How long have you tried that? What else have you done? Are you, needing help? And when it constantly gets met with, oh yeah, but I had this really big thing happen last year, or oh yeah, well this happened and then this happened, and they go into a life story of just saying all the ways that they didn't make it happen. And I want to give time and space for like real life situations where that makes sense. But when they're constantly coming up with a reason for why not, I don't want to work with you
Mm,
because I don't want to waste their money. I'm like, this is expensive for coaching. It's an investment, and I don't want to just get on a call with you and you're not gonna you're not gonna make anything move. I'd rather work with people like on the other side of the flipped coin that you were talking about is the people that are like, I really need help. The people that are raising their hand, being like, I admit this, please help me. I can see and give you reasons for why not and what I would like to do about that. Those are the type of people at the end of the day that I'm like, okay, we're going to schedule a call next week and we're going to get this started.
The reason I asked that question, and kind of a shout out for you, Natalie, is that as much as you were like, I was in your program probably 3 years,
Yeah.
whatever it was. I think it's got to be draining for you. It's not about the money. Like if you get off and you don't see, you know, okay, last week we were going to talk about this. Did you do it? No, because of X. It's got to be
Yes.
draining for you, for your personality, because I will give a shout out. I've had some life events working with Natalie, and it was just that great little like in my text box, here's go get a coffee. It was the $10
Hmm.
or the $10 on Amazon. Like I felt like you had my back from a personal standpoint first,
Yeah.
and then you celebrated with the wins that we had. And I that's what kind of I think if you had a choice of one person paying you more and it not going anywhere, one person paying you less, I think your personality as a coach is you'll take the win
That's
any.
right. Anytime. Yeah, you're right. And I heard you get a little emotional when you said that. Um, which means a lot. Which means a lot to me. Um, and I think the little celebrations is what's lacking in real estate agents' life. I do ask that question to my people. I'm like, how do you celebrate yourself? And usually they're like, I don't. I'm like, man, if you just had like, I love that I was able to celebrate you because you didn't have time to do that for yourself,
Right.
you know? And the people come first every day. Like if you are a client that is growing and you are putting your nose down and you really want to work on like your business, but there's just things that just are big catastrophic things that are hard, then I'm going to support you all the way, right? So I hope I answered your question right.
Oh, you did. I think,
Um,
Well, Dave, I mean, you, it was not a little thing. It was
yeah.
massive.
Yeah, we can keep moving. Oh, all right. Next question. I've done different types of coaching. I believe that people have a failure to succeed more than they have a failure or a fear of failure. That
Hmm.
there's this issue of, well, if I do it this year, then I have to do it next year. Do
Hmm.
you see that at all in the coaching realm that people did 12 deals, 20 deals, 30 deals, then there's that pressure that they have to do 30 again?
Yeah. And I think there's almost shame around if they don't. And they're embarrassed to go over their numbers with me because they want to portray themselves as having done more because they've done it in the past. I don't think, yeah, I think you're right that there's not as much room for grace if you didn't hit it this next year. There's some shame aspect around that. And I think I got to that point in a call 2 weeks ago. So the same guy that was, doing 40 to 50 deals dramatically dropped. That shame conversation took place. And he goes, Natalie, but I'm worth so much more. And I was like, okay, what are you gonna do about it? That one little simple question can make a grown man cry because he was like, whoa, you know? Um, and it was all based out of that shame of he knows that he's worth more. He hasn't done it. He's done it in the past. So it's like, how do I get there? Um, that's really what I see more, Dave, than the failure to succeed. Because when you asked that, I was like, I don't really know what that means. And I've coached agents for a long time. So I wonder, like, in your mind, what does that mean when you say failure to succeed? Maybe that would be helpful too.
I think you see it at a lot. If they're the ones that score the goal, that's the game winner. If they're the ones that lead their office for a month of sales
Oh.
listings, that they get put in a position sometimes that they get moved up and it's a hierarchy and sometimes people just want to fly under the radar. You
Hmm.
know, you also have in this industry where everyone's like, I sold the most homes in my community of people that had a color TV, for 2 years straight, whatever. Um, then you also have people that don't really post their numbers,
Hmm.
so yeah. All right, so I'm going to have a role play question for you. There's
Oh, okay.
somebody on this podcast,
Oh
Michael,
my
that
gosh, that is so
had his
rude.
best year, had his best year in 2024, calls me in a panic, and
Is
he,
this true?
yeah, I mean, no, it's a hypothetical, and basically says, I have to blow up my whole marketing, my social media, da 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 da. And I was like, but didn't you hypothetically have your best year? And they were like, yeah. I told them
Hmm.
Oh, I remember this conversation.
it's a hypothetical. What's your thoughts on somebody coming off their best year, thinking that something failed miserably, and they want to start over?
They failed miserably because why?
I don't know, Mike, how would you hypothetically answer that?
Oh my gosh.
I'm a coach.
Hypothetically.
I have more questions. I can't
Okay,
just answer it.
I'm just gonna just take the veil away from the hypothetical. This is a real conversation. So yes, I did, in fact, have my best year this past year, and I still wasn't happy with it because that's just how it is. And I mentioned to Dave that I was going to blow up my marketing because I thought I was wasting money on a certain program that I was doing that wasn't giving me any ROI. I think it's a valid question. I was either going to, and I was going to either save it or redistribute it to something else. So,
Okay. So if I was in a
Hmm.
coaching call with you right now, one, I would probably be asking you a lot of questions around contentment and being like, okay, what does this mean for you? You didn't seem content around that. Why
no.
not?
Hmm.
Um, are you and then getting into the why do you want more? How much more would it actually do you need to get to in order for you to feel successful? Like, what would be a good number for you to feel that way? Based on your personality and just that little story, I don't know if you have a number. Or
Um,
maybe you do.
I've always wanted a number with a 20. Like
Like,
20, like 20 million is something. I don't think in transactions, I've converted my thought process into GCI or into sales per year.
Okay.
Like because I would rather raise my ASP and sell more expensive properties than try to grind through 50 transactions in a year. Why can't I do 25 and do just as many?
Sure.
And when I switched to my new brokerage, which we're not discussing which brokerages we're at, that really came to the forefront. But when I was thinking about all this money that I was spending with this one specific company that I have done it for 2 years and I haven't seen anything come back from it yet, I was kind of like, when do I redirect that? I thought it was a valid question. Dave was like, just celebrate you had a great year and let's not blow up anything at the moment, which is a good answer.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Yeah, I think it's less about the money of where it's going. I think it's more, I still think it's the success question of like, what is it going to mean to you to for you to feel like a success, and how do you not sacrifice your family in the process of trying to reach that goal? Because I've seen and coached so many agents where their work-life balance is so out of whack,
Mm,
all because they want to hit a certain volume or a certain number and it dominates your life. It's almost like asking like a person who makes 500,000 a year and they're like, "Oh, but I just got to get to 1 million." Okay, but why? Like that's really like because you had a great year. And I
mhm.
would I would be celebrating, be like, you killed that year. Sure, we can redirect things. Let's get more, but why?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I just
And I jumped into a different um, pond where I became a really itty bitty fish in with a bunch of big whales. So, um, and I'm a competitive person and I'm mostly competitive with myself.
I get it.
And going back to the person that is just having a really hard time. It's like when I came out of corporate sales and into real estate, the brokerage that I was with was just huge on personal development and mindset and things like this. And I'd never heard anything like that before. And I
Right.
thought these people were nuts. Well, now I get it. And I'm kind of a personal development and mindset junkie. And sometimes I was thinking about that individual. It's like, that person might do better off in mindset coaching first before they get into like
Mm,
a productivity type of
mm,
coaching. Because a lot of people, me included, I know this very well. I'm living in a world that I created that I was not raised in. And
mm,
when you do that, there's a lot of outside factors that are trying to pull you back to where you belong, kind of thing. So, getting out of your comfort zone means a lot. Sometimes it means you have to switch the 5 people that you hang out with the most, too.
right. Right.
It causes a lot of other stressors, but they're all good.
Hmm.
so I want to be conscious of time. I know Natalie, we appreciate you being on. If somebody wants to reach out to you, we'll put in the show notes and all that stuff. But what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I love a text. That way I can have your number. We start off on the right foot of just trying to get a meeting scheduled, and then I can, give them a call. Or you can call me too. I'm down for either. So if you have my phone number in the show notes, I'd feel comfortable giving people my direct number. That way we can get things started. I think something that I haven't mentioned that I want to make sure that I do, because Dave, you're potentially going to be doing CRM management, new things in the future. I don't want to give that away if that's a secret.
No,
So,
it wasn't.
okay, good.
I've used it for 13 years. I'm switching companies and
Great.
getting it to some of the agents in our brokerage.
Awesome. So, for the real estate agents that are listening to this, and I mean, 65% of real estate agents struggle with follow-up. So I'm very, very aware that most of you listening might be like, oh yeah, I follow in that camp. Follow-up is hard. I am always a fan of who, not how, the principle of who can do this, not how to figure it out. You guys are real estate agents for a reason. You are supposed to be in front of people, you love people, and you sell. And so managing a back end system can be maybe draining for a lot of you, where you're like, that is, yes, that is just too much. That is not my wheelhouse. And so I'm a fan of you guys facing forward while your back end is constantly a well-oiled machine. And so when I have conversations with agents, I give them plans and I'm like, okay, go and do this. Like, here is, the step-by-step process of how to get people to respond to you. And they're like, that's great. Implementation of that, not going to happen. Let's just be real. The implementation is the hardest part. So I developed a new branch of my company. Real estate coaching is obviously my primary dominant side of my business, but I did open up a different branch, which is me going into your KV Core or Follow Up Boss and building out 5 campaigns for you that are automated so that everything's up and running and ready to go. And I did that because I needed a solution for my people. I was like, I have to have a solution for them so that they will do what I know works. So that's another part of my business. You get 2 free coaching calls included in that package, just because I want to make sure you are set up for success. And those coaching calls really fuse together nicely my expertise in how to win with people, and also the operational side of business coaching that I'm also in.
It's great.
Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal.
This has been fun.
Thank you
That was
so
a fast
much.
hour.
That was a super fast hour. Um, Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it.
Seriously, I'm a big fan of your team. And if I know Dave and I know how he works and how he cheers on his team, like, you guys are just the byproduct of that. And those listening are also just, I applaud you. So you guys are doing a really great job. Just to give you some coaches encouragement, like, keep going. So many people are going to get out of the business because it's hard. And so
Mhm.
even just the fact that you were listening to this and you guys are facilitating the discussion says a lot about how you guys are the CEO of truly your business, that you guys are wanting to continue to grow. So I'm proud of you too.
We appreciate that.
Well, I'm
Thank
kind of
you.
learning that this
Thank
is
you.
kind of like we're giving back to other realtors just by doing
Great.
this, I think, which is another great book. I just read The Go-Giver
Yes,
like
that is a
three
great book.
times.
It's great.
All right. Thanks,
Well,
everyone.
thank you guys.